Warning, may contain profanity, knowing your limits, training smokers, pissing in the park, horse people, or peanuts. I am Woodstock.
Well, dude, it's been almost like a straight year. I can't remember the exact date. I could go back through my episodes and figure it out, but I think it's been an exact year since we did our first episode.
That sounds about right. It just doesn't feel that long.
It's a little bit different feel. Last time I came to your gym, we set up. I busted my computer screen. I don't know if I showed that to you, but was really pissed off and stressed. Like, I have this like brand new like $2,500 laptop, and it fell off of a chair, maybe like, I don't know, less than 2 feet, right, onto your pads. And that's how cheap these Microsoft laptops are. So kids,
did I even know that happened?
I think I was trying to like hide it because I was trying to be all professional and shit, but I was like all like sweating and pissed off and like trying to just be really cool.
Bro, I had no idea. I didn't even know you broke your laptop. That's crazy.
So it still works, but I paid like $100 for one of those Surface pens that you could draw and stuff. Can't use it. The whole screen's just shattered. Oh, no. I went online, and apparently there's like a defect, and thousands of people have just this one little hairline fracture that goes from like the camera down. And I think that's what started it, because that appeared, and I thought it was just my daughter had been like too rough with it. And so I didn't worry about it. And then when it made that little drop from that chair at your place onto a fucking mat.
That's what I was saying. Like, we have probably the softest like surrounding ever.
And it was on sitting on a chair, and it completely shattered my screen. So no. I've been dealing with a fucked up laptop for the past year. I still have it. That's what I was taking all through Europe and across the US to record everything. And it worked, but it's nice to be back to the studio. I'm glad to invite you back to something that I can actually be your host instead of you hosting me.
Dude, this is cool. I like this. I like this place so much. I want one now.
I put a lot of heart and soul into this guy.
You can tell. This place is super nice. It feels very comfortable in here. You got the AC blaring. I like it.
Fun late nights have happened in here.
Oh, I'm sure. And this is a poker table?
Yeah. I built this just for, family and friend fun back at the house when we had it. Decided it was worth chopping up and getting in here. I did like chop off a little end poker table. But yeah, custom poker table I made back in the day. Did some upholstery, some new shit for me. But as a carpenter, I gotta, do what I can where I can.
Speaking of, I may need help building a poker table.
Dude, literally me and my buddy who built this together, we are building one for him right now. He's got these like old, just really cool like antique poker cards. So like over 100 years old, and he's putting them on this. So for those of you watching the video, you can see there's like a wooden track around the table, and he's inlaid these poker cards, and then he's gonna epoxy over it.
Okay.
And we were thinking like if, I don't know, maybe if we got the time, we'd make some extra poker tables. So you say the word, man.
I'll buy one.
Perfect.
Right now. So I don't know if you know, I got into woodworking too.
No shit.
Yeah, I build chess tables. So I'm super into chess. I play a lot of chess.
Dude.
So I build custom chess tables, and I really enjoy it. Like, it's really cool. But I build really nice chess tables, and then the next thing I was going to learn how to build was these. But then I just now decided I'm not going to learn how to build it. I'm going to let you build it.
Perfect, man. Let's do it. We'll talk after.
Yeah, man.
Well, for everyone who doesn't know you, who hasn't watched the previous episode, you're a local MMA instructor. You own Satori MMA here in town, and you're just an all-around badass. You post some pretty funny shit online. I've enjoyed it, and so I just randomly reached out to you. Didn't know you from Adam, but I thought we had a pretty good rapport. I thought when I got back to Texas, I'd hit you up and not do a full relap of all the episodes I did round one, but show you the studio, show you a little bit of the changes that have happened to I Am Woodstock.
Yeah, no, it's awesome. Yeah. I'm an MMA fighter, MMA coach, and that's about it, man.
So for the people who haven't listened to the first one, let's do a little bit of a recap. You've been doing it for about 2 years now?
I've had Satori for about 2 years now. So I've been an instructor far before that. I owned another gym in town before I started my own. We had 5 business partners, and we just learned that was too many business partners. You get 5 people in a room, no one can agree on anything. So what I decided to do is, after a while of not being able to agree on that gym, I just went off and did my own thing. We were having some disagreements anyway, so it was kind of perfect for me to just take off. So I started my own gym, Satori, and then, we've been running for about 2 years. Before that, I was helping my instructor instruct judo at the gym that I was at before that. So I've had like an extensive history in teaching. Ever since I started training, I ended up finding out that I was pretty good with teaching and helping people. So even when I was learning martial arts, my instructors would always have me help coach like the kids and stuff like that. So then it just kind of escalated, and it's weird, and kind of like, when I think about it, it's pretty crazy because I never wanted to be an instructor, like ever. And I still don't even view myself as an instructor, because in our heads, I'm an MMA fighter, right? And so I'm not like, the word, still it trips me out when people call me coach. I'm like, huh? Okay. Like, I'm
not used to it.
I'm an athlete too, man. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want to be labeled, because you know what I mean? There's 2 different things, the coach and then the athlete.
Yeah.
And my dreams had always been to be the athlete. And I've just slowly started transitioning into this coach role, and it's just hard to adjust to. So I picture it being difficult for anyone or people in any of these sports to make that transition from athletes to coach, because it almost feels like you're giving up something in a sense, you know what I mean? A sense of your identity as the athlete, and put into this role of instructor. You know what I mean?
Are there any like high profile athletes that are currently instructors as well? Like any MMA pros that have their own gym and do training, or is that just way too much?
So I think a lot do. But what I will say is, I think that the ones that are competing at the highest level aren't spending their jobs coaching, right? They're spending their job full-time training. So I do think that there's certain, and a lot of UFC fighters, they do coach, but when they have a training camp, they have people that coach for them, right? And so that they can focus all their time on training. And that's kind of the issue that I find myself in now, is because I still plan on competing, and in order to do that, I'm going to have to sacrifice my coaching, and so I'll have to outsource a lot of my coaching, and I'll have to just spend more time focused on the craft, getting coached, than coaching other people, because coaching's a very big investment of time and energy. I was talking to you a little bit before we started, but I've got a couple fighters fighting in May, and that's all my focus and energy right now. So like, trying to think about me trying to compete and worry about them, I couldn't, because all my energy right now is focused on these guys. And I feel like that's your job as an instructor, is to give your students your 100%. You can't give them your 100% if your 100% is focused on yourself.
No doubt.
That makes sense?
Yeah.
So,
man, that's a lot to juggle, especially because I can see in your eyes, like, although you love coaching, I've seen a few of your like posts, and we've talked a little bit off the side about how you feel about the kids, and I want to talk a little bit about that. But really, when you're talking about competing, that's when your eyes are just really lighting up. So I can see it's a big sacrifice to you to be able to focus on these kids.
For sure.
How has being a coach kind of changed your outlook on life, or has it?
Yeah, it definitely has. It just really, I'm just very grateful. I don't know if we talked about it last time, but I had very instrumental coaches in my life. And when I say that, I mean like they genuinely changed my life.
Fucking coffee. Coffee down the wrong pipe, man.
Hey, it makes it real. It makes it real. Hey,
grab a water real quick.
You good? No, I'm good.
Literally once a day, as I'm drinking coffee, because I sip it,
Mm.
I don't drink it. I'll like pull it in. I'll just get that one little spike down my throat. Fuck.
For sure.
That's awkward.
And I need to get back to coffee too, because these things are like death for you.
Yeah, man, I wasn't going to say anything, but
I mean, you can.
Athlete,
no, you can, because these are really not good for you. So yeah, I need to get back to coffee. I'm working on it.
Coffee's not great for you. I have a buddy. He's very, let's just say he's successful, very successful in life. He studies like the ultra successful and what their habits are, and he's trying to convince me to just get off caffeine 100%.
Really?
He says most of the ultra elite, like those guys who become nothing to CEO and then some, they all drink like this thing called rooibos red tea, that it opens up your vessels instead of constricting them like caffeine does. And so instead of having the caffeine give you energy, it's helping your body stay energized.
So these are just like elite secrets that they're just keeping from us?
You know, you can go around, read books of like, you know, autobiographies and shit of like, hey, this is what I do throughout the day. I wake up at this time, I do that. You know, like obviously there's more than one way to skin a cat with anything, but a bunch of guys
for sure.
You know, you got to have a lot of energy and shit to be ultra elite, all that.
Yeah, and these guys are only sleeping like 4 or 5 hours a night, right?
I don't know. I have not done that. That's not the type of lifestyle I want to live.
Same.
Although, yeah, if someone wants to throw $1 billion at me, sure. Yeah. But I'm not willing to make the sacrifice to get to that level, right? I have a family. I got kids. They're never going to be able to spend time with their family. From the little I have looked into it before I realized this is me talking like I could be a billionaire if I wanted to.
Yeah, exactly. It's just because I choose not to. I feel it.
So before I started hacking my lungs out because I had coffee down the wrong pipe, you were talking about being a coach and how that's affected your outlook on life, man.
Okay, yeah. So it really what I was going into is that whenever I was training, I feel like training really like changed my life. I had influential instructors that really helped to like carve the way that I became a man. And it meant more to me than I think anyone understands. And unless you've had someone like that in your life, you'll never be able to explain it. Like words don't put into how important these figures were for me. And I've just appreciated it so much. And I think one of the coolest things is knowing that I have these feelings about these individuals, because I didn't have a father figure growing up. So these guys were like instrumental in my development. And just knowing that they did that for me and getting to kind of see that with me being able to do this for other people, it's kind of been a game changer. And as much as like we're sitting here talking about how I feel like I'm sacrificing so much being an athlete, when you really look at it, I'm gaining so much more though by being an instructor. So it really is a fine line. And the more I instruct, what's interesting about it is the more I end up appreciating the instructor side more than the athlete side, because the athlete side is very selfish. Right? No one else is really benefiting from me being an athlete other than me trying to be a badass, right? So nobody, as cool as that is, for me to get to walk around and feel like, oh, okay, I'm an athlete and I fight or whatever I do, nothing's cooler than being making a huge impact on someone else's life, right? And that's kind of why we're here, right? To make impact on each other. So
I love it. I mean, that's the point, man. That's the point. We're all monkeys trying to do better, and we can't do better without help.
Right.
Being a coach, that's something I was thinking about a lot yesterday. I do like a little preparation before each, and I was sitting there like, all right, well, what are we going to talk about? And the idea of coach kept coming into my head, because what I don't have right now is a coach teaching me how to do any of this shit. I'm just making it up as I go. I could reach out to people, but I've chosen not to for my own, style or whatever. But it truly does show you that there's very few people in life, I think, that will thrive in a coach situation. It takes sacrifice. You have to, like you said, as an athlete, you get to focus on you, and that's great. We're all, pretty selfish beings. That's the easy thing to do. The hard thing to do is be selfless and like give a part of yourself for others. And I imagine you probably have thousands of stories about how you wanted to do X, Y, Z, but because of these people who count on you, you chose to sacrifice your time and your expertise and your own personal training. You've already brought up, but I think that's kind of the pinnacle of what, not to get too broad here of a topic, but that's kind of why we're here, like you said, man.
No, for sure, man. And so just the more I go through it, the more I definitely appreciate it. It's a learning experience, right? Like you don't realize these things first day. It takes a few years of training for you to sit back and look back, and for me to sit here and talk with you to actually evaluate it. Because so many days I'll just go through and not pay attention to these things, but then when we have a conversation like this, it makes me sit down and think, I've been thinking about things a little wrong. You know what I mean?
Experience is going to change your perspective 100% of the time, man. I mean, I don't know how many times I have strived.
Striven sounds good, man. It's not a word. I make up words all the time. So
hey, if Bush can do it, I can do it.
For sure.
Every time I get to a certain level where I think I've like quote unquote made it, I look back and I realize, wow, Jace, you were a fucking idiot because you didn't see all of this stuff. Now that I'm here on top on this like new view, I can obviously see what you were missing. But I mean, that's obvious. If you're at the bottom of the hill, you can't see the view at the top. And once you get there, you look down and you're like, well, shit, I wish I would have known. So before you kind of threw your all into being an MMA instructor, what would Brandon right now tell Brandon years past?
That's a hard one, because the Brandon in past wouldn't have listened.
Shit. Well, that's the right answer right there.
You know what I mean? Like it's all of us. We all have people telling us things, but I think through it, we're not going to learn other than through experience. So I don't think it would have mattered, to be honest with you. I mean, I could tell myself anything. I wouldn't have listened to anyone. And I think, and that's a lot of my kids too. And that's cool too, because even as an instructor, right? So I can give anyone the best advice ever. It's up to them whether or not they take it. And I can't be offended if they don't take it. But as long as I give the advice, in 3 years, when they come to that same realization, they'll go, oh, he gave good advice. You know what I mean? So,
I'm sitting here thinking about, well, just in this last year, I keep seeing these numbers come out about how like the larger corporations have increased their profits insane, and all the mom and pops have like gone to shit. And me and you, in a way, we're the mom and pops, right? We're the small guys. We're trying to do startups and everything, and it makes me wonder, like, how do the small startups like survive and push through? Like, what takes a person to a point where they want to give up their cushy job to where they don't have to be the coach? Someone is telling them what to do each day, and they get to go home, not have to stay up at night thinking about it. What is it that drives certain people to actually do that and turn their lives into a fucking 24/7 nonstop, let's think about everything all the time situation?
This is my favorite topic ever. But because we both, am I good?
Pull that mic towards you. You can lean back, just pull it towards you.
We both, right, are in this. We're blessed too, because there's a difference between mom and pops businesses that people started to make money, and then there's a difference between mom and pops that they started the business as a passion, right? So I don't even look at mine as like a business, and I would make more money, but I'm not karate. It's not, and I'm not talking bad about karate.
What do you mean by that?
Okay, so if you just look at a lot of these, they call them McDojos, but they don't care about the instruction. They don't care about, like, what they care about is bringing people into the doors and feeding them whatever it takes to get money in. So they're charging for belts. They're charging for belt tests. They're just in it for a business. And we're completely opposite of that. And I think I'd definitely do better as a business if I was focusing on it like it was a business. But what's funny is we do actually pretty well because I don't focus on it like a business. I let a lot of people train for free. I sponsor them. not because I'm trying to make a dollar off of everybody, but because I genuinely care about a lot of these people. And if there is a way that I can help people the way that I got helped, I'm definitely going to do that. But then I have a passion for like good instruction. So I think long story short, my main point is we can work 24 hours a day because it's what we love doing, right? If I just started a small business, I'm trying to think of an example for myself, because if I went to go start a bagel shop, right? Just because I wanted to start a bagel shop as a small business and be an entrepreneur or whatever. I think some people out there are like truly passionate about bagels, and like they would do really, really well because every day they wake up, they think about bagels, they think about ways to make their little recipe better. I'm no bagel expert, but I'm sure there's like a whole science in it. But I'm sure they would do really well. But if I were to go do it and start it, I would not do well, because when I go to sleep at night, I'm not thinking about bagels. So and you're right, we have to work 24 hours a day, but is it work? Because that's what we're thinking about all day anyway, you know? So I don't know. I think we brought this up last time, but I watched this video one time that said, and I'm pretty sure we talked about this last time.
Yeah, I think you're right.
If there was no amount of money, right? If you had all the money in the world, what would you spend every day doing? And that's what I recommend doing. Just do that, right? And the money will come, or it won't. But at least you're doing what you love. So I don't know. I think small businesses, I think some of them, I do feel bad because I like to support small business, whether or not it's like their passion or not. I think small business should be way more supported than big corp. But I just think that I have it easier because I love what I do. So
it's a good answer, man. Going back to your training gym, when is a good time to start a kid off doing that? And I think last time we threw a couple numbers out there. I don't know if that answer's changed or not.
So the tentative number is 4, but that's based off of maturity. So I'd say that I start at 4, but I have had a couple 4-year-olds that come in, and I tell them, their parents, I just don't think you're ready yet. And what it comes down to really is attention span and ability to not be a distraction to other people. Now, I don't kick them out. If they're 4 and their attention span's all over the place and they're distracting the whole class, then I'll recommend private lessons until we get them to a point to where they can be in a group setting. But group setting's such a weird dynamic that one distraction or one bad energy or it's just contagious in a gym. And so you kind of have to really monitor the group. Every person in the group, if you have that one bad seed, you have to be very careful that they don't just start spreading. And I don't mean that in a bad way, but we pride ourselves in our dynamic in the gym. As far as we have like a really good atmosphere. I've trained at a lot of gyms, and we have the best atmosphere of any place I've ever been in. But we also, we really monitor our atmosphere, and if we have an issue with our atmosphere with one person, we bring it to their attention and tell them, hey, we can't have that in here. But so it just comes down to maturity, and if you can handle a group setting. If you can, it's cool. We'll do private lessons at 4 years old, but 4 is generally the starting point of being able to focus for any given period of time, and then take direction, and then not just be all over the place.
Yeah, I think it's the important part of making sure you take out the bad apples, because I had my daughter in dance at that age, and every single kid, when I went to see their little Christmas performance, was just on their own. I mean, my daughter was there laying on the ground doing little wheelies, and every single kid was not following the dance. Maybe one kid was,
right. But
I imagine if the majority of the kids are all falling in line, that one kid will follow suit with the rest of them.
That's exactly how it works. It's exactly how it works. And I run a real tight ship with my 4 to 8 year olds. I'm probably stricter on them than any other class. But you're exactly right. By running a tight ship and then narrowing our group the way we have, now when the new kids come in, they see the standard that's set with these kids, that they have to focus, they have to pay attention, and it's not even a question anymore. They just want to do what everyone else is doing, which is the right thing. So setting that strict standard and then having a group of people that follow it is key, and it just makes everything smoother for any new kid coming in. And so that's a really good part that we have about our program. I've seen other programs, not to put anyone under the bus, but I've seen other programs that have 4 to 8 year olds, and it just looks like a babysitting class, and ours is not a babysitting class.
Just a bunch of kids rolling around.
Yeah, I just watched a video yesterday of a gym that had a tiny kids class, and it was just kids. I'm like, y'all aren't training. You know what I mean? So
I remember UFC back in the day when it was like bare knuckle and just blood covering the place. It used to be, I don't know if that's the right term. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's right.
It used to be where old guys like me could join the MMA and join the UFC and actually be competitive.
Yeah.
I don't think that's the case anymore. Kids are so well trained up that you truly, like any other sport now it's been around for a while, you have to start at a young age. What is that age? Is it 4, or can you get a teenager in and still get them to that peak level?
No, teenager. Yeah,
Okay.
I would say, obviously 4 is a good. But if you look at any sport too, how many people start a sport at 4 years old and then stay in it all the way until they're?
Lots of soccer players right now.
Do they?
Like you kind of have to be in on it. Like you have some of the biggest clubs are recruiting like 6, 7, 8 year olds already, and they're like, yeah, I mean, they got millions of dollars to waste, and so if it doesn't work out, whoop-de-doo. But I think Messi, I'd have to look it up. In fact, I actually have a computer here. But yeah, I'm pretty sure Lionel Messi started really young. Lionel Messi age when contracted. Let's see what comes up. Oh, never mind. I lied. He was only 18. But again, that was 30 years ago. So, and so of your fighters who are actually there for, because you got 2 different divisions, right? You got the people who are there to get in shape or just have an experience. Then you got those who truly want to start competing. What percentage compete?
Right now, it's interesting. It's weird because my teenager, I've really, there's been a weird dynamic in the gym lately. Right now I have a lot of competitors. Typically I don't. So my adults, I would say that are actually competitors, I would say maybe 5%. Not a lot at all. My teenagers, I don't know what is wrong with them right now. This is just a weird place that we're in, but like 90% of them want to compete. And I'm not saying go get in a cage, but they all want to go get in kickboxing competitions. They all want to compete. And it is a little bit easier at that age too, because it's very monitored. It's not like, hey, we're throwing you in a cage, like good luck. It's big gloves, headgear. It's a much safer environment. So that's probably why we have so many willing to compete. But all my teenagers want to compete. I'm looking to get us in a competition here soon. I'm looking for a smoker. It's just hard because we have so.
Wait, a smoker?
A smoker, yeah. So a smoker is it's a kickboxing. It's like glorified sparring against another gym.
Okay.
So they throw it's a way to start practicing for competition without having an actual tournament,
and
with putting it on your record
and
all these things. So it's like it's the first prep. So I always picture it as training. If you want to be a competitor, you start training, you take some smokers, then you take amateur fights, then you take pro fights.
And I guess the coaches just referee it. Make sure it's safe and all that.
So when we go, we'll have whoever's throwing the event. They'll have a referee in the middle, and then if they're younger than teenagers, we'll be in the cage with them or the ring with them to make them feel safe and things like that. And then if they're teenagers, we'll be right outside the ring, pretty much cornering them and coaching them, and making sure that everything is safe. But they're very safe. Anytime people throw smokers, the referees are very from what I've experienced, very efficient at keeping everyone safe.
Yeah, we got some reports back from the NFL over the last couple decades showing head injuries are way worse than we really thought they were. How does that compare in MMA versus some of these other contact sports we have?
And that's been talked about and debated. And they've shown that MMA is far safer than boxing. But then it just comes down to like, well, what's not safer than boxing? You know, like,
well, what about kickboxing?
So now that I would honestly, it's hard to tell. So the difference between a lot of these, and it depends on the rule set too, because the problem with boxing is that they just repeatedly get hit in the head so many times, and then they'll get dropped, and then they'll get 10 seconds to get back up, and then keep repeatedly getting hit in the head. A lot of the times in the events that we're going to, if you're taking any kind of damage, it's a lot like MMA. You just stop the fight. You don't get a stand or an 8 count or a 10 count. You have to, if you're losing, you call it a day. So, but I mean, to be honest with you, at the end of the day, if you're looking to compete in a combat sport, it's probably not that safe for your head. And I'm not, I mean, at the end, neither is football. Neither is
football's terrible.
Yeah, right. Neither is a lot of things. And I tell people all the time, yeah, I wouldn't wish competitive fighting on my worst enemy. Like, I don't think it's, I don't recommend it to my kids. I don't recommend it to anyone. I do, however, with that said, I think that there are people out there that are like me that need and want this type of outlet. It doesn't mean I recommend it, but I get it. So I'm here.
Do as I say, not as I do.
Yeah.
I can get on board with that.
Right.
Alcohol is one where I destroy my body daily, not daily, but a few times a week.
Mm-hmm.
But I'll tell everyone all day, don't drink. It's terrible for you.
Right.
I'm still going to do it, but
Sure.
man, I had a question for you that was right in line with that, and my dumb alcohol content got in the way. What was that? One of the issues that I personally had back in sports, and mainly, I mean, I did wrestling, I did football, I pretty much did everything, but football's the one that really took a toll on my body. I think one of the biggest reasons that I got as injured as I did was I didn't have the education. It was the type of, I don't know, I had the type of coaches that were just like, suck it up, rub some grass on it, get out there. You know, I pushed through a lot of shit that now, knowing what I do about physiology, about anatomy, and about head injuries, concussions specifically, there were certain times where I would have pulled out, 15, 16-year-old Jace. What type of education do you do as far as the safety realm with the kids?
Don't ask me this.
Oh man, I got you, buddy. I got you.
You're really gonna put me on this. I'm that coach. But to counter your argument, you learned how tough you were, right? That's valuable.
Yeah.
Right? And so sure, it wasn't healthy, but there's something mentally gratifying about knowing just how much you can go through. So sure, it's not healthy. It's not good for your body. And, but I'm kind of that coach in the ass. Like, I'll have kids, and this is going to sound bad because it's going to go against everything that you just said, but I have kids that will hurt an arm. And my answer is typically, that's why you have two. Okay, keep moving. Okay, I can't. He poked I can't see. Cool, you got another one. No, I don't care. I'm very unsympathetic when it comes to injuries. And I think the main reason is, for my competitors, the ref doesn't care. Like, and the question is, if you're doing a dangerous sport, right? So you knew this before going into it. So you're in the middle of a competition or sparring or whatever. Something does happen where you get injured. So sure, you can say, all right, well, I'm injured, I need to stop, right? But does that get fixed by quitting? You know what I mean? So it doesn't get fixed. So if I hurt my shoulder in the middle of a round or in the middle of a fight, does me saying, nah, I quit, did it fix my arm? No, my arm's hurt already. Cool, I'll deal with it after. I don't need to deal with it right now. I can deal with it, I'll win the fight, and then I'll deal with it after. But the arm's still broken, or whatever it is. So there's a level of mental toughness that I think that we need to, like, I try to train my guys. Just quitting because of these little injuries is not the answer. We've got to figure out who we are, how tough we are, and then in fighting especially, or any combat sport, you have to be mentally, you have to know how tough you are. You have to know. And so I pride myself on knowing, and this is probably in something you should pride yourself on, but when I go into the gym, no one's going to get me off that mat. No one. And I walk into the door knowing that no one's going to get me out of that cage, even if it's just sparring. But it's a mentality that I walk around with every day. You're not going to beat me. I don't care what it is. You can take my arm off. You will not beat me. And now, does that mean I don't get beat? No. But it doesn't change my mentality that you're not going to beat me. If you beat me a round, I'll be back tomorrow. If you injure me, I will stay in here until I go get it fixed, and I will be back the next day. And so it's, as a combat sport especially, as much as safety should be looked at, mentality is what takes you the furthest. And so mental toughness and just knowing how resilient our bodies are. Now, I say that as a 33-year-old. I may change my tone when I'm 50 and dealing with all this stuff.
When your hands start shaking a little more.
Well, yeah, and I have plates in my hands, so like when the weather starts getting cold and my hands I'm like, I don't know if when I'm 50 or 60 I'm gonna be like, you gotta be tough.
So I will say one thing, because I think there's a lot of merit to what you just said. I think with everything, there's exceptions, and you actually pointed it out already in your previous statement about boxing. Most of the injuries that are long lasting are because of repeated head injuries. Shoulder, yeah, screw it. Like, who cares? It's going to ache a little bit. Right. I think if you have a head injury and you're getting back in there, as you pointed out in boxing, as they do, that might be where the balance is. You know, moderation in all things, and that might be the moderation. Of course, we're talking about competitive fighters. Yeah. We're talking about people just in there for recreational. Yeah. There's a different threshold, etc.
Even my competitive fighters, like if they got dropped, you know, like caught clean,
foot to the head.
Yeah, you're not getting back in there. You're taking the day off.
And I guess you did already address that. Yeah. The ref's not going to let that guy get back up.
And I won't either in sparring. Yeah. Every once in a while in sparring, we have someone that gets dropped and they get to take time off. So I didn't think about that until you were talking about it. But yeah, that is the exception when it comes to the brain. And then my younger kids, they're not even allowed to hit each other in the head.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Well, their brains are still developing. Yeah, that's the last thing you need to do is be rattling around developing brains. Now,
what is it, like 25 years old when they officially start? Well, obviously each person's different, but 20 to 25.
Yeah. My math is different.
12.
Would you find that on Google? You found that on Google? Huh? All right.
Yeah, we don't know shit. Humans think we're smart until we realize that we're not.
No, I'm just kidding. No, you're probably right. We do let teenagers start hitting in the head, but still it's very, very monitored. And yeah, it's just one of those things too. So we don't let them like get knocked out, or they're still wearing headgear a lot of the time. And then I don't you probably haven't seen our sparring, but a lot of my sparring is very.
Oh, yeah, I came that one time.
Okay, yeah. So it's very technical. On Fridays, my adults turn up and we spar hard because we need to simulate fights. But my teenagers, it's all technical sparring. So we're not whipping heads back. We're really focused on just learning technique and incorporating all the lessons we've learned throughout the week into our sparring. And this is huge because so many people just go out there and hard spar all the time. And it puts us in this fight or flight mode. If anyone's been into a fight, they know that like when you're in a fight, there's so much anxiety and so much I don't want to get hit going on that you're not thinking about any form of technique. You're thinking about how do I survive this, which is not where we need to be in sparring, and especially for kids. What they need to be is they need to be going at a level that's light enough to where they can still make rational decisions. And so in order to do that, we go very light. We don't have any heads whipping back. We don't have any threat of real danger. It's very technical sparring, and I think that's one of the types of sparring that gets neglected in combat sports sparring the most, is the technical side of it. And I think there are progressions. I think you need both. You need the hard sparring, you need the technical sparring, but as a child with a developing brain, it's all technical sparring. There's no need to be hard sparring. But as an adult, you need both. I do the same for my adults. 4 days a week we technical spar, 1 day a week we hard spar. The technical sparring so that you can actually learn technique. The hard sparring is so you can figure out how tough you are.
Well, I really like what you did when I did show up that one time. As a adult with a like degrading brain, I've noticed that. Well, you said that you focus on the technical sparring, and that's what we did. It was slow. It was just trying out a few things, and it's super counterintuitive unless you've gone through the motions. Mm-hmm. But that moment when some guy's coming at you and you respond with the thing that you've just been practicing, you don't even think about it, that feels pretty damn good. You're like, holy shit, I'm a ninja.
Yeah.
And I can only imagine doing it day in, day out, getting to the point where it's not really a thought process. It's almost like an algorithm. If you're a computer nerd, you know, you see this fist coming at you at this angle, you're like, all right, well, here's my options. What are the best options? Okay, I'm going to either step back or step into it, and you have to go through this process. It's like playing chess times, 1,000 speed.
And in order to get to that point, you have to spend so much time thinking about it, right? So you don't just ever just not think about it and do it. You have to think about it so much that one day you just stop having to think about it. So, and then drill it so many times that it just becomes muscle memory and then just instinct reaction. But you don't just jump to that point. You have to focus hard on it to get to that point.
Just like speaking a new language. At first, you're doing a translation in your head. Then one day you just wake up talking.
Right. I mean, I wouldn't know, but
I'll attest to that one.
You speak another language.
In the last episode, we talked a lot about language. Yeah,
I didn't see it.
I speak Portuguese and then like crap Spanish. Actually, my Spanish is probably better than my Portuguese. It's been so long, but
all right.
My last episode is with a guy in Portugal, Coimbra, Portugal, and he was speaking English like a fucking pro, and I was like a little infant trying to remember a few Portuguese words.
I'm gonna go back and watch that one.
He was a cool dude, man. We talked a little bit about drug use on our episode, like psychedelics mostly. I specifically sought out Portugal because of their drug policies back in like, what was it, 2000s? I think it was like 2000, around there, where they completely decriminalized everything. Mm-hmm. And I wanted to talk to someone, and this guy is open about his drug use. He uses amphetamine like off the streets, and talked about how he was arrested one time as a dealer. And it was just really, really interesting to see the comparison between his experience in Portugal compared to what it would have been in the United States, and how his life wasn't destroyed. But had he been in the U.S., it probably would have been destroyed.
Right.
And it's kind of we won't get into it here, but I'm going to watch it. It was an interesting, very cool guy, very open. He wanted to keep his name off the wraps for obvious reasons, because it's still illegal there.
Right.
But it's a situation where if you are a responsible user, who cares? And that's kind of the idea that I got around most people. They're like, I don't care what you use, just don't show up at the park naked and pissing on stuff, right?
That's where I'm at with it, the whole situation.
Not pissing in the park.
That's all I ask.
That's all we need, man. Don't shit in the courtyard. Don't piss in the park. One thing I've been wanting to do, but because I've been traveling, I haven't been able to. There's this thing that I've brought up on the show a couple times. It's called the New Paper.
Okay.
All it is an email once a day, Monday through Friday. And they give you like the top highlights. It's like one small paragraph about the main things happening. They have it split out by the US, tech, world, etc. And I like that idea because I think we can all agree now that we've all been manipulated by quote unquote news for our whole entire life, right? Mm-hmm. It's only now in my life that it's super obvious that CNN and Fox are entertainment. It's not news. It's entertainment, and with a facade of news. In fact, did you hear about the there was a lawsuit with Fox, and the Fox lawyers, this is Fox News lawyers, said their defense for Tucker Carlson was that no one would take him seriously, and that it's just entertainment.
No.
They literally, that was like an
didn't see
official court document.
Don't.
That's insane, man.
Grandma, if you're watching this, just ignore this whole segment.
You a fan of Tucker Carlson?
No, I mean, to be honest, I don't pay attention to any of this, man. Like,
That's smart.
And I probably would do. My wife does, and so like if it's super important, that's what's cool too. Is if you're married to someone that pays attention to stuff, they can just give you like the highlights. You don't need all the fillers. And even when she's giving me the highlights, I'm like, this is what you're entertaining yourself with today. And I guess it's not entertainment, it's education, but there's so much that like I can't control with all that, and so much like in my own little world that I can control. I just focus on that stuff, and it's not the right answer, but it's just easier for me. So
Hey, we all have a calling in life, and unfortunately mine is to be excited about everything. Like every time I learn something new, it doesn't matter the topic. I'm like, well, now I got to sit there for hours and figure out what that all means.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And that's not for everyone, I guess.
No, that's super cool though that you're able to do that. It lets you also be very expansive in your knowledge. And that's one thing that I was like, if you look at, the more you talk to so many people, you get so many broad, like it makes you such a more, I don't know what the word for it is, just like people that travel, right? So I don't travel a lot, but it's cool to see the people that travel because they're getting this insight to other areas and other cultures and so it makes them, in my opinion, better people because they're not so isolated in their own beliefs. They get to have a broader perspective of culture, of ideas, of thought processes. And so the more people you get to talk to,
we're playing with the mic. He got away from the mic, so I turned it up, and then he got close, and I turned it down.
But I think that's super cool. I wish that I did that. But yeah, that's for you.
Yeah, man. I won't bring my my politics onto you. I don't have like a set stance with politics. I don't have a set stance in anything because every time I do, I realize that I'm wrong, right? And there's just so many like nuances to shit that, yes, the right's going to be right a lot of the time, and the left is too. And when a crazy thing like COVID happens and we're screaming at each other, when all the dust settles and the actual facts and the data comes out at the end, both of them are going to say, see, told you so. Right. And it's going to be about different stuff, and there's going to be so much nuance in it that it's just going to create more bickering back and forth. So I'm really focusing on trying to get to the point where my friends who are super liberal and my friends who are super not liberal, conservative, there we go, we talk about shit that we can potentially maybe agree on. Right. And I'm trying to be positive, man, but sometimes I'm a little fatalist around this stuff because it's like maybe it's just human nature. We need to fight. We need to have some sort of combat in our life. I know all about man. That. Like exactly. And maybe that's why like fighters are so zen, because they get that out in like a literal way. Or the rest of us plebes that don't punch each other in the face are like, well, I'm going to yell at you now, and whether you like it or not. Yeah. I think there's a lot of validity to that too, because there's nothing more humbling. Like if you're having a bad day, or like even if you just think no matter what, when you leave the gym after hard sparring or work, you're humbled. Now, even if you won, you're humbled because you get hit. And that's what's funny about me. Like people think I'm the instructor and I'm probably the best one in the room. I get hit all the time, and I get frustrated myself sometimes. But like, there's not a day where I don't get hit in the face, and so you're gonna get humbled. Everyone in the gym. So yeah, I will say that does take a little bit of that out of my needing to fight outside the gym, on whether it's arguing. I don't even argue with people, but also I'm kind of like you. I'm pretty open-minded, and if someone wants to argue with me, I'll take their opinion, and I don't have to argue mine back. Like
For what?
Well, when my daughter comes up to me, she's 8 years old, and she says something that's completely insane, I just smile, and I'm like, well, you'll figure out life eventually, right? When an adult, even if they're older than me, come and they say something completely insane, I have the same reaction. I just smile. I'm like, this is kind of funny. Maybe you're right, maybe not, but you yelling at me right now about it is really not going to help either of us in the situation. So let's just have another beer and get along.
Right. And then if you look at online, like, that's where it's the worst, is when everyone's arguing online and trying to go back and forth. When have you seen an argument online end up with the other guy going, oh, man, you're right?
On Facebook, never. I've never seen that. Reddit, are you a Redditor?
Yeah, well,
Reddit, you'll find that every once in a while. Specifically, there's one, what is it, Change My View? It's a cool subreddit where
that's the whole point of the...
But there's some assholes that get on there and they won't budge.
Yeah.
But it's very, I guess, it gives me hope in humanity that people can actually say, okay, spell out, here's my argument, change my view, and they actually come back with what they call a delta, which is like, yeah, you changed my view, I didn't see it that way. Right now, I kind of got sick of the subreddit because it's just all about like transphobia. Like every other post is about, what about pronouns? I'm like, dude, just let people fucking live their lives.
That's the topic.
Who gives
right
a
now.
shit?
That's the topic.
Well, speaking of, as an athlete, what do you think about, what is that, like there's a swimmer recently?
No, yeah, that's not cool with me. But you know, yeah,
like,
I just
not
don't think
cool
it's
with you as in like a transgender what's the official term? It's a man transitioning to a woman competing in female sports.
That. I don't think it's fair. So I wouldn't want one of my girls competing against a transitioning man. And I have nothing against transitioning men. You can do whatever I don't care. But don't compete against my girls, you know? Just because of the genetic advantages that you started with. You can go become whatever you want. If you can go become whatever, you can go become a horse if you want. Actually, people do that too.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Like they walk around.
I gotta look this up.
It's a whole thing. They do competitions. They do
walking No, you're not kidding right now. No. Like there's actually people. Yeah. Okay, this is coming up.
Yeah, they do.
What do I search?
People races.
Human horse races.
Yes.
Is that it?
Yeah.
No way. No, this is actually. Get off of here. Get off of here. I need to pay for like a non-ad. Okay, here we go.
I see. I mean.
No,
most of the time they don't dress up like that. These people actually are horses.
Okay, there we go. Now we have the audio right.
Bill Ryan. Number 2 is
they're actually dressed up as the ones you've seen
are
not.
I've seen are not. They they
let's fast forward here a little bit.
Alumni stable.
That's not the one I'm thinking of.
But is it the same thing where they actually get in the pens? Or?
No. Like these people have like the ones I'm thinking of. People,
and we've got 13 of
being
them
horses,
getting lined
maybe.
up.
What is this?
That's it. That's it.
No way.
Yeah.
Okay, so what we are watching right now is a woman on her hands and feet just trotting. That actually looked like a horse from far away.
He's got a good trot.
That's weird, man. I don't know. And we gotta get her a salt stone. She gotta.
Yeah, man. And like, it's
people do weird shit, but hey, let people do weird shit.
Yeah.
That's not hurting anyone.
No, we got to enjoy this awesome video because of it.
Ooh, they have oh man.
Yeah, she's got little jumps.
This is too bizarre, man.
Yeah. Well,
I bet some people get off on this.
Probably. Well, either way, my point being is I genuinely
That's amazing.
Don't care what you want to do. I don't care. Everyone's entitled to be whatever they feel like they want to be. But I don't feel like you should be able to compete against girls And the only reason is because I have guys and girls that I train, and the guys have a definite strength advantage, definite size advantage, and those are the two main things. But did you see the I'll call it the trans girl, the guy girl, that competed against us? She was twice as big. Like,
Yeah.
she's way
She's
bigger.
huge.
How is that fair? And then if you look at those times, I think I saw a lot of people looking at the times in the men's division. That would have been like a horrible time compared to winning the women's division.
Yeah, and that's where I think it's very disingenuous. We support the LGBTQ community because we want to be supportive and we want to be kind to everyone. We want to be open-minded, and it's all around selfless. It's something that we want to do good for others, support everyone, being happy, and that's not what she was doing.
Mm-hmm.
She was being selfish. I'm just going to say it. She knew that going into that, she was bigger, stronger, faster. She knew that she had a competitive advantage, and she was being incredibly selfish. And she could say that, no, I'm doing this for the community to bring awareness, and that's cool. Still pretty damn selfish. It's incredibly selfish. And if I were a part of that community, I don't think I'd support it. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there's some inner workings and feelings that they feel it is justified, and I'd love to be able to sit down and talk to someone that has a
that'd be
different
cool.
viewpoint.
That'd be
But
cool
I
to hear.
I haven't come across anyone that does. I think there's probably a chunk of people out there that do, but it's something that I just cannot understand. And I'm sure that if I was put in that position, maybe I'd change my view. But at the end of the day, I think it's a pretty selfish thing to do.
Well, let's think about this too. So if we're in a women's division in anything, whether it's fighting or swimming or whatever, is it cool for the rest of the division to not be able to like do any supplementation, and then one person just be heavy on steroids, even if it's a girl, right? So
and that's the equivalent, right? We're
Right.
talking about someone who does steroids for 15 years of their life
Mhm.
and then stops maybe a year before they compete. No, that's
not
on the
fair.
physical level, that's what it is.
And some girls are doing that too. Like, even in combat sports, there's some girls out there that are just juiced to the gills, and they have noticeable advantages against these girls that are naturally trying to compete.
So if we want to be kind, if we want to care for each individual's feelings and allow these individuals to compete because they love it, like you love competing, you want to be an athlete, that's assumed that, I say assume, that's going to trigger some people, but that's assumed that they truly did not choose these feelings that they had. They were born a man, they were born a man, cis man, I don't know the terms, but let's say, okay, we want you to be a woman, but we also want to allow you to compete. What's the solution?
Give them a division.
A division just for transitioning or transitions people?
Why not? That gives them their own little category they can be. We can have like the women's champion, the men's champion, the transitioning champion.
And that's going to be badass at the beginning, because whoever steps up to play the
first place, I'm the champ.
World champion, babe!
I'm the champ.
I got the belt! And then they'll have to wait until someone, you know.
But then look, in 50 years, it'll be like a competitive... does that... All right, whatever.
I mean, the other option is just take away all barriers. So it's not male division, female division, which the feminists, they fought tooth and nail for that. So I don't see how that would work out. Pretty much just going to take females out of 99%. There are exceptions. There are girls that can beat the shit out of me. I know that.
Right.
But it is the exception. So I really think the only solution is, like you said, you'd have to have a separate division for people who maybe it's the juice division. It's like, all right, guys, there are no restraints here. If you want to compete in this, you can juice as much as you want. You can transition. You can do whatever you want. But then what if a female's transitioning to male? That there's really no place for them unless it's a specific division just for them.
But yeah, that's
which is pretty much girls juicing. Is what it comes down to.
Yeah, I don't know the answer. I don't know the answer. I just know that it definitely disappointed me seeing. I just felt bad for the other girls, you know.
You could see it in their faces.
Mhm.
They felt robbed.
Mm-hmm.
I feel for her as well, because I'm sure she's going through a lot of emotions. But it's,
For sure.
at the end of the day, be a bigger person and like step down.
Okay, but and maybe this is me thinking a little bit backwards on the whole situation, but like, how good could it feel? And maybe that's right. That's probably because she feels like a woman. But I just picture it like, how good could it feel beating women when you know that you have those advantages? Like,
I guess
does
we
it,
could ask Sammy Sosa. Do you still feel good about all those home runs after juicing? The answer's going to be, yeah, I feel pretty damn good.
It's like, I feel like a champ. I feel like number one. So you're right. Okay, valid.
So good on her. Live your best life.
Valid.
Screw second, third place. I don't care about them.
You know how it feels? It feels like victory.
Hashtag winning. God damn. So, all right, let's talk about me.
Yes.
I used to be an athlete.
Mhm.
I'm not anymore. I had some injuries that kind of kept me from working out at all. And every time I go back to work out, my brain kicks in. It's like, hey, Jace, you're still an athlete. You can do this. And then I push myself too hard and get the shit beat out of me. And then I'm like out for a month and I can't like do anything, right? There's a lot of guys out there exactly like me, is why I bring this up.
Everybody.
Yes, I love talking about myself, but this is, I think a lot of people listening to this are going to want to hear your answer. Let's say I wanted to be a badass in my late age. You know, I'm never going to be competitive, but I want to be able to hold my own and be able to roll around for an hour and not die, right? If I go straight to the gym, my worry is that I'm going to get that mental click and I'm going to go too hard and I'm going to tweak something. Are there exercises that a guy or a gal who is a little bit out of shape right now needs to get back into shape before they go to the gym that they could do at home?
No. There's nothing that, I mean, sure, but everyone always says that too. I have so many people that message me and like, I'll be at the gym when I get in shape. I'm like, okay, so you'll never be at the gym. And not only that, but what are you going to be in shape for? Because are you going to go lift weights and get stronger, which isn't going to help you in here? Or are you going to go do some cardio, which isn't going to help you in here? Contrary to belief, if cardio or being in shape was all you needed to do well in my gym, triathletes would be monsters, right? No, they're just as dead as anyone starting off on their first day. But it just comes down to repetition and being comfortable with something. So if I've never done burpees before and I did 10 burpees, it's going to be the hardest thing I've ever done. But if I've done burpees every day, the burpees are easy, not because I got in shape, but because I found the efficient way to do it. So when it comes to training in any martial art or boxing or anything like that, I recommend going in, starting way slower than you should. And this is even in working out. If you didn't want to box or do martial arts, you just wanted to work out, I just go in, start slow, don't push hard, and do less than you think you should do until you slowly start gradually making it up. And I have to argue and fight myself with that all the time, especially when I go back to the strength and conditioning gym, because I'm in that mentality that I should be on like week 8 of fight camp and I should just be, but no, then I'll get so sore the next day that I have to take a week off. So you have to know the process, and you just told me that you knew the process because you know that you're going to push yourself so hard. So knowing that, we have to refrain ourselves and do way less than we think we should until we can slowly start working our way up. But to go to your question, as far as doing things to prepare you for the gym, like there's nothing you can do to prepare you other than going and doing it. Same for jiu-jitsu, same for kickboxing. Nothing's going to prepare you because nothing simulates kickboxing like kickboxing does. Nothing simulates jiu-jitsu like jiu-jitsu does. So you can go get in the best shape of your life, but if you go do Brazilian jiu-jitsu and roll around for 5 minutes, your anxiety, your panic, your unknowing of the situations is going to tire you out, you know?
You know, what you just said struck a struck a memory when I worked at the hospital. We had athletes come through all the time, and these orthopedic surgeons would be sitting there kind of like talking me through, like, all right, this is why we're seeing this injury. And most of the time on athletic injuries, it's because they worked out. When you're strengthening a certain muscle group and then not another muscle group, you have an imbalance, it's going to hurt the muscle group that's not as strong. Or typically it ends up being the ligament or the tendon. So, you know, to your point, doing a takedown, doing a block, a parry, that takes a very specific combination of muscles. If you work out outside of the gym, strengthening or doing whatever, you're going to have an imbalance there, and you're potentially going to make the issue worse. So I just talked myself out of working out before I go work out.
Yeah, for sure. And then it just comes to the main thing being your calmness. And then anything that you do, and the only way you can be calm is just to be in that situation so many times that you can stay relaxed. I can spar, genuinely, I feel like I can spar for 8 hours. I will not, like, I can just spar all day. But I'm also in such a relaxed state while I do it, whereas a new person that walks in, they could spar for maybe 2 minutes. But that's because their brain is just firing so much, and they're so anxious, and they're so tense, and their breathing is so irregular that it's just a very big deal for them. And then the only way to get from that point to the point where I'm at is just to get hit so many times that you just don't care anymore.
I liked what you said earlier. It's efficiency, man.
Mm-hmm.
It's being able to learn what to do, and more importantly, what not to do, and save your energy, save your focus. What's the shortest distance?
How to do it easier. And that's my life. So people think I work out all the time. No, I just try to find ways to be lazy.
You know, that's what makes a professional from just the typical layman. That's like the big separation. So I do carpentry, right? I build new homes, you hang doors and shit. My buddy was doing a renovation at his house, and I helped him hang some doors. And I did in a day, like, I don't know, 5 or 6 doors and the trim around and stuff. I left my tools there. He's like, hey, I'm going to hang this door by myself. What took me, you know, six doors worth of time, he spent one door, and he did a fantastic job. It was actually probably better than mine. Every single thing was perfectly plumb and square and everything. But there's no way he could have done that as fast. And so separating the layman from the pro is being able to do things efficiently, quickly, and knock it out. And translating that back to fighting, it's being able to, in the moment, fist coming at you, make that decision immediately and not have to think about it.
For sure.
I love it, man.
I need to take that advice, though, that you just said about that door. So I'm doing shelves right now for a contractor. And he said, well, do you want me to pay you by the job, or do you want me to pay you hourly? And so I'm doing this for like fun on the side, because I like woodworking too. And I'm like, you might just want to pay me for the job, because if you pay me hourly, because I'm going to spend way more time than I need to on this. And that's because I'm learning how to do these floating shelves at a 90-degree angle, learning that walls aren't 90 degrees and walls aren't flat. So I didn't know all that. You just think, you think stuff's 90 degrees. It's not 90 degrees. But anyway, so I didn't know all this, and I'm spending a ridiculous amount of time on these shelves. I'm losing money in time on these shelves, for sure. So I'm glad you brought that up, because that's the difference between an amateur and a professional.
The selfless guy in you is, hey, pay me for the job. The selfish guy would be like, yeah, pay me hourly, because I'm gonna screw up a lot.
Because it took me 37 days for these shelves.
That's the other life lesson, is the DIY crowd. It's like, I'm gonna do this myself and save money.
Right.
Never the case.
Nope.
Never the case. Because guess what? You got to buy that
Tools.
tool. You got to buy this wood. Oh wait, you don't buy it in bulk. You have to pay retail versus a cabinet shop that buys this thing by the truckload. There's a million reasons why getting a pro is better, unless it's just your passion. It's something you want to learn. You want to. It's about education. Like for me, when I decided to do the podcast, I could have done it a million different ways, but I wanted to learn. I wanted to put myself through, Woodstock College. Like, how do I do this? Figure it out on my own. Get some elbow grease going. No, it wasn't the best business decision as you put it before, but there's a value in educating yourself, brushing the dust off your brain, getting back into that mentality of learning and trying new things and getting scared, putting yourself in crazy situations. Like when I got stopped at the border from, was it Albania into Montenegro? I knew going into Albania that it was like kind of like, I don't know, big import of drugs into Europe. Someone told me that most of cocaine goes through Albania to get to the rest of Europe. I didn't think that a guy traveling with a bunch of like sound equipment like I was, driving across the border into another country, I mean, it should have been obvious that I was going to have some sort of like confusion. I didn't realize that since my brother registered his car at the like US, like it was the army base up in Germany, the registration looks different. So that was a red flag for them. They pulled me over, and like 2-3 hours later in the freezing cold, after they'd torn everything out of my car, brought over like 3 different international police. They're going through every single pocket of my bag. They tore like panels and they got under the car, flashlights, everything. And then they all sat there like, do you believe this guy? He's just traveling around like the eastern bloc of Europe with a bunch of like, what do they say? You have an entire news studio in your car? I'm like, it's just a hobby?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. Like,
Right.
Can I please go? Because I don't have anything to give you. And they just
Right.
kind of rolled their eyes at me. They're like, get the hell out of here.
Yeah. Oh man, that's crazy. But that's a good story though.
It was a fun time. It was a
Yeah.
long day.
It
'Cause
wasn't fun at the time, I'm sure.
Man, I'm pretty good about keeping calm, because
Okay.
the alternative is to get all pissed off and not
Right.
enjoy it.
Right.
So I'm sitting there,
That's
I'm
true.
joking with the guy. I'm like, hey, asked about his family. And I think that's what got me out of it at the end of the day. Because I was just smiling. I'm like, not a drug dealer.
No, what got you out of it is not having drugs.
Well, the crazy part is
But I
the day
did.
before-
I did
No,
have
I
drugs.
didn't. I didn't. I had an opportunity because I was in Albania and I was talking to some guys and they're like, hey, do you want some of this? And I had the opportunity to say yes. They were going to give it to me. And then it did cross my mind. Nah, I don't want to be held up in Albania.
Yeah, right.
And I don't think they cane people there like Malaysia, but it's probably not fun being in a jail in Albania.
Oh, that's hilarious.
I had to travel through Montenegro, then through Bosnia, and then half of Croatia that same day. And let's just say I deserved some time off when I got back to the States. It was
For
not
sure.
as easy as I thought. It was stupid of me. Not stupid because I knew what I was getting myself into. It was an adventure, but
Right.
fuck, it was a lot more work than I really expected. But I pulled it off somehow.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Well, dude, thank you so much for agreeing to come to my
course.
studio.
Of course.
I could actually host you instead of you hosting me. Good conversation as always, man.
Always. It just always flies. We sit here and talk. How long have we talked?
It's been about an hour and 15 minutes.
See? That's what's cool too, is that like time, when else do you get to talk to someone for an hour and 15 minutes and it feels like it was 5? It's pretty cool.
Every time, man.
And I'm
Every
sure
time.
you get to do it all the time. But if I'm outside of this booth, it's so rare for me to talk to someone for an hour. I can't. I've never talked to someone for an hour and 15 minutes. Me and my wife don't talk for an hour and 15 minutes.
It's hard. It's
Tough.
It's almost impossible.
Not in here. Maybe it's the walls.
It's the walls, the headphones, it's the attractive host.
Yeah, you're right. You're
all
right.
the above.
You got it going on in here. You got it going on.
But no, my goal for doing this is just really breaking through people's, I don't know, hesitation. I don't know if it's hesitation. I don't know what the word I'm looking at. Whatever barrier it is that's keeping us from doing this, I want people to realize the value of it and then to make a concerted effort to sit down and have a conversation with someone, whether it's your spouse, which probably should be happening. I realized that me and my wife weren't talking a lot, and the last year and a half that we've been doing this, our communication is 1,000%.
That's awesome.
It's hard conversations though,
Yeah.
right? Because the important ones are the ones that we've been avoiding.
Mm-hmm.
Fucking hard, man. It's scary. Every time that you're avoiding something, it's because you're terrified of it, whether you like to admit it or not. And you're like, well, what's going to be the consequence? And I'll tell you right now, the consequence is what it needs to be. And you avoiding it isn't going to change the outcome. If you're worried about talking to a friend because you think it'll ruin your friendship, you still need to have that conversation. And if it ruins your friendship, then that means it probably wasn't a great friendship in the first place.
For sure.
Same goes for a spouse, same goes for everything. And the more I've put myself out on a limb and like had conversations with people close to me and complete strangers in other countries, and I actually say something that I'm like, oh, I shouldn't say this, but I do. Sometimes it falls flat, but those are also the times where it really shows my own biases to myself. It helps me figure out like who I am first, but then also like, have I been an asshole to people around me my whole life because I didn't realize I was acting this certain way, and I've just been ignoring it because it's been working. Like no one's hasn't been a big enough deal for like someone to bring up to me, but have I just been walking through life blind, like being an asshole and just getting away with it? And the unfortunate answer is yes, all the time. And I'm glad now that I can at least be confident enough that the end result is always going to be better, even though there might be a little bit of growing pains in there. It's always going to be better to make that phone call or to send that text. I would lean towards the phone call or hell in person, because
Well, communicate.
Yeah.
Point is, communication's key, right? So, yeah, I'm with it, and
it's the hard communication though, right?
Yeah.
Because like social media, there's a great benefit I think for it, but if that's the only thing you got, you're not going to be happy.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I don't know. I'm wrong. I'm not happy when I strictly am sitting there in social media. I have to actually get out and have an experience with a real human being, especially people who are different from me, because that's when I get that warm fuzzy that the world's going in the right place. Because if you're just looking through the lens of what the media's throwing at you, it's a scary fucking world out there.
Right. Well, this definitely, and I'm glad we got to bring this up at the end, especially because it gives me something to leave and work towards. But I definitely plan on making a more intensive effort to just communicate with people better. It's easy in here, but outside, our schedules are so busy. We're always doing so much that everything just feels run. And even when people are talking, our head is on to the next thing, and we don't sit down. And I say we as in me. I don't sit down enough and just really take in what people are saying, actually listen to them and communicate with them, rather than being in my own head, just thinking about A, what I'm going to do next, B, how I'm going to answer, you know what I mean? Instead of listening to what, having a communication. Yeah, I'm going to work on that this week. So thanks a lot.
Focus is a learned skill.
Yep.
Can't thank you enough, my man.
Yes, sir.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you.
I am Woodstock.